Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about something that is quite troubling. It has to do with two media companies that are largely from India, one of the developing nations in the world. And it's quite troubling that for a media company that operates from a nation that shares a lot with countries like Nigeria, fair reportage should be expected of them. But I see that this company is not just operating but targeting African nations with negative reportage. And Nigeria receives the largest criticism from this media company. I want us to listen to this particular report, and I will complete my analysis on this issue.
Our next story is about corruption. This is a global problem. It plagues a number of countries, but some more than others. Among those at the top of the list is Nigeria. Nigeria is Africa's most populous nation. It used to be Africa's biggest economy as well, but it has now slipped to fourth place. This slide is often linked to President Bola Tinubu, his economic policies and his reputation for corruption. Tinubu recently featured on a list, the list of the most corrupt leaders in the world. The winner was former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. He was followed by Kenya's William Ruto. But Tinubu made the top 5. Now, I must clarify here that these rankings were sourced from the public. There wasn't a scientific formula involved. It was about public perception, and Tinubu is perceived to be extremely corrupt. So is his government. There are a number of reasons for this. Let me show you some of the latest examples, starting with the government. Nigeria has an anti-corruption agency. It is called the EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. This is Nigeria's watchdog. Its job is to tackle corruption, and technically they are doing that, but at home. Let's show you today's major headline. The EFCC has detained 10 of its own over some missing items. This statement was put out by the agency. You'll notice that they said some operational items could not be accounted for. Okay, that sounds like some missing equipment. But then the Nigerian press dug a little deeper, and it turns out that the operational items were jewelry and cash worth $350,000 to $400,000. What operations were they pulling off with all that jewelry? 10 EFCC officers were detained in Lagos. They are apparently answering questions. That is all that the commission has revealed. They haven't told the public who the corrupt officers are. I know it's innocent until proven guilty, but the very same commission usually does not follow this. They happily share the names of under trials, but suddenly the agency is shy about revealing the names of its own officers. And this has been quite a bad week for them. They were forced to make another announcement on Monday, telling the people that 27 other officers had been dismissed for fraudulent activities and misconduct. This is not a great look for Nigeria's anti-graft watchdog, and definitely not a good look for the Tinubu government. Bola Tinubu is 72 years old. He's been around for a while. He's a seasoned politician. So as you would expect, he has been linked to a number of scandals over the decades. One of the worst involved drug dealing. Tinubu allegedly held money from drug trafficking in his accounts. This was according to the US Justice Department. Tinubu, of course, never accepted the charges, but he did pay out a settlement worth $460,000. Now, these charges are old. No final verdict was reached. So let's put them aside for now. After all, people can supposedly change. So what has Tinubu been up to recently since he became president? Well, he was caught up in a fake diploma scandal for a while. There were allegedly some errors in his college certificate. Okay, mistakes happen, moving on. Then there was a major scandal involving a highway. Tinubu issued a $13 billion government contract to a company co-owned by his son. Tinubu is quite the caring father, apparently, but alas, most people do not see it that way. That is why he made it to the top 5 in the Corrupt Person of the Year award. The perception is quite prevalent, and reports say that he is quite vexed. He's even hired American lobbyists to clean up his image. He's reportedly paying them $2.7 million, though I wonder, is he paying from his own pocket or Nigeria's treasury? I suppose we'll find out eventually.
So that's all the reports about Tinubu, the EFCC, and other corrupt-related issues. That aside, I'm not in any way defending Tinubu or the EFCC. We already know the obvious. Nigeria is a developing country with its problems. I will never defend corruption in any manner it presents itself. But why is WION and firstpost fixated on Africa and Nigeria. You hardly will see any positive news coming from this Indian media. And it's quite simple. Nigeria in 2050 will have one of the largest economies in the world. It's going to double the economy of the United States. And it is obvious that that's a lot of opportunities. Despite the fact that Nigerian leadership is not looking at this direction and planning in line with our population growth, Nigeria is seemingly a visible threat to some of these large economies already. And I want to unpack some things here. It is laughable for countries like India to always take swipes at Nigeria. I'm not trying to be racist here, but I'm trying to help us understand that you don't have a log in your eye and you begin to struggle to take a speck in your neighbor's eyes. And that's what India is trying to do to Nigeria, as well as other African countries. I know ChatGPT has hallucination issues and depends largely on humans to train and deploy data. But I'm going to ask ChatGPT and provide answers, even on what ChatGPT has about India. And I won't be surprised if they are correct. So let's get there. So what does ChatGPT say about India? India has issues around poverty and inequality. And we know India has a population of over 1 billion. Despite India's economic progress, a large portion of the population still live below poverty lines, with stark disparity in wealth and distribution. India has issue of corruption. Growing up, we watched a lot of Indian movies. And one strong theme in most of the Indian movies talks about corruption, particularly the police. India is a very corrupt country. Grafts and everything you can think about, they've taken it to the next level. No doubt about it. You have pollution and environmental issues. You and I know how filthy India could be as a country. Even breathing in India is something else. And that's the challenge India faces till date. We have issues around gender inequality, as well as violence against women. That's the capital of gender-based violence in the world, India. And you have issues around overpopulation and overcrowding, even in urban areas. India has a population issue that is grappling with till date, and they've not been able to address issues around their population. We talk about child labor and exploitation. Because of the hardship and poverty in India, children are expected to work, and you have displaced children all over the place, children missing, and sometimes they never get found. That is India for you. You have issues around infrastructural challenges. Health and sanitation is a big issue in India. Corruption and ineffective judicial system, just like Nigeria. You have human rights concerns. We're talking about caste system in India and religious polarization. Everything that is negative, worse than what Nigeria and most African countries are facing today, India is facing them. Sadly, these two global media outfits from India continue to share narratives that showcases the negative side of Africa, particularly Nigeria. We're not in competition with India in any way, but I do not see the reasons why the growth of other nations should be a threat to India that has not addressed our problems. Who owns this company? Mukesh Ambani. Mukesh Ambani is one of the wealthiest men in India and the world. And he also has his own issues that he's battling with within India and beyond. And I'm going to read out a few of them too. Mukesh Ambani has issues around crony capitalism, no doubt. He has been accused of leveraging his proximity to the Indian government to secure favorable policies and regulatory benefits for his industries. He's been criticized for monopoly because even the telecom companies in India are owned by Mukesh Ambani. India, that practices some sort of democracy that I don't understand. There are issues around workers' exploitation by the same Mukesh Ambani, and he has a reputation for that all over India. We're talking about opaque business practices because beyond what we see, there's been accusations about some other businesses that this same industrialist is involved in that are shady and are not even acceptable within the norm of any society. And there's been accusations around concentration of wealth within a certain family, and he has the ability to crush other businesses due to his links and connection with the Indian government. And the most remarkable one is the manipulation of the media. I think that's what Mukesh Ambani is currently doing. And if anyone would take a swipe at Africa, it shouldn't be coming from Mukesh Ambani, whose reputation is subpar with any other global industrialist with reputation. These are people with no reputation. These are companies that have not been able to beam their searchlight on India's issues. Myriads of issues coming from India. We'll never hear WION or firstpost report any negative news about India. But I need you to just do a Google search about India and you realize that it's not as bad as they try to paint it in the media, that Africa is a total corrupt entity. I understand that corruption exists in government and beyond, but countries like India and their media outlets shouldn't be looking at Africa because it's like washing dirty linens of other people when you know you're all filled with debts both ways. WION and firstpost needs to do a reassessment of their strategy. These economies are growing. African economies will grow, no doubt. If they are a threat to your economy, all you need to do is to rebuild your economy. Is these economies as bad as they describe? Indian companies have established businesses in Africa for over 100 years. And if the economies were not good and thriving for them, if they were not enjoying the perks and benefits, I believe they would have left the continent. I believe Narendra Modi wouldn't have visited Nigeria and other countries to deepen bilateral ties with these African nations. The propaganda, the lies, the defamatory statements coming from the two prominent Indian media outfits, it's one that should trouble Africa. And African leaders need to also readdress this. We're embarrassed each time we see foreign media trying to describe Africa, Nigeria, in a very embarrassing manner. We have our challenges, no doubt. We acknowledge them. But it is not appropriate. Someone who shares the same sort of challenges with Africa to begin to throw light on Africa as if they have addressed their pending issues. India has tons of challenges that they can't even address in the next 100 years. I believe they should focus more on the kind of reportage that will develop India. India is a struggling nation. Despite the gains they've made in health and technology, they are still a far cry from what a civilized society should be. India still has the worst form of challenges, be it violence against women, child poverty, large-scale poverty. India still remains the rape capital of the world. I believe this is what these media stations need to begin to focus on. We know our problems. We are challenging the government, as civil society, the media, and all whatnot to realign itself. Nigeria is one of the nations that is struggling and is really working hard to address her challenges. And that is how most African nations are also fighting hard to get their feet on the ground. If you can be part of the process that will develop Africa, and if you must undermine Africa, why do you then trade with them? It all smacks of hypocrisy. India should stop this media propaganda that is targeting Africa, that is targeting Nigeria. We are not a threat to anybody. It's a concern that African nations need to grow. If economies will grow and if economies will become large, it's an opportunity for growth and trade. Why then must Mukesh Ambani and his media outfit see Africa as a threat to their own business empires? This is one of the reasons why we need to go beyond the mere reportage in the media. Why are the owners of these large corporations targeting Africa? They are looking at their interests. They are looking at the challenges their investments will face when Africa grows. WION, firstpost are doing some shady jobs for Mukesh Ambani and other Indian industrialists that believe that a growing economy and a developed economy like Africa will pose threats to their monopolistic hold on India and the world. Africa needs to grow, Africa needs to develop, and Africa needs to explore. We can't continue to be where we are. The population is a young population, opportunities are great, and these young minds are unstoppable. This is an opportunity for Africa to also rethink and address her challenges and also showcase its own prowess, its own successes, and landmark achievements around the world. I'd love to read your comments, and I say thanks for watching.